before you heard the sound. Now. Is self-inquiry different from being open and empty? In a way, actually, when you are open and empty, you see, it is completely clear to you what you are. But speaking phenomenally for a moment, the inquiry like, am I aware now, or who am I, is helpful because many times we are not really open and empty, but we are just thinking we are open and empty. So, to give it some more propulsion, to give it some jet fuel, you see, a question like that can be thrown into a grenade like that can be thrown into the mix. Because being open and empty is really empty even of the notion of being open and empty. But many times we just sitting, then we just take on the mask of, oh, I'm being so open and empty, this is very nice. It's so peaceful here. You see, these kind of things. They can just come in the way and we can feel like, wow, I'm really enjoying this, you see. Then we become spiritual sightseers and we try to hold on to states. So it is about none of that. You see? So when a question comes in there, who is aware of your existence? So then you go away from these subtle seeming mental positions and really dive deeply into your reality. But actually, if there is no position being held at all, no expectation, no intellectual boundary, no time, no space, nothing, you see, then you don't even need to ask yourself an inquiry question. You see, asking who am I puts the focus internally to look for I. No, you don't. Actually, just ask, who am I? The question has enough potency to do the job for you. But if you treat it this way, that I must ask the question, then I must try and figure out the answer, you see, then we are just troubling your own intellect. If you feel like I'm bringing my attention inwards, you see, it is outwards, I have to bring it inside, then it's all this outside, inside is all in the intellect. You see? So actually in inquiry, eyes can be open, eyes can be closed, attention can be here, it can be there, it doesn't really matter. Because your self-recognition is not going to be a product of your attention anyway. But what you may find is that as you ask a question like this with openness, you see, and you're not personally intervening to try and get to the answer, you may find many times that attention gets absorbed in a certain way. And that is completely natural and fine. But it is not the product of some personal intention. Because with all of this personal intention comes the boundaries of what we think to be right and wrong. Then you will never go beyond the notions of inside and outside. That's why I'm saying it's important to remain open and empty and just, you see, once you've thrown the grenade in, then you don't have to do anything. Just get your mind out of the way. But when I'm open and empty, there is a lack of focus, and there's a tendency to wait for the next things. You see, that's what I mean. So this is not open and empty. There is neither a lack of anything, there is neither a lack of focus nor the one-pointedness of attention, independent of all of that. But I'm glad you're showing us all of this, because this is what many of us can feel like we are undergoing. Like you talked about the tendency to be waiting for what is going to happen, waiting for the next thing. So just emptier than this. Like forget the meaning of focus, forget the meaning of lack. Just forget about it. Unconcerned with anything phenomenal. The mind will come and say, how can I forget? I can't forget. Just let it come and go. Become more nothing than nothing. Don't take yourself to be anything at all. Neither controlling your attention nor leaving it free, nothing. Unconcerned about whatever may show up. Not bothered with any phenomena whatsoever. Not bothered even with how attention is functioning. But because that type of openness, emptiness is rare, that is why sometimes you can use an inquiry question. Just ask, who am I? Somewhere this answer is apparent. Apparent but not expressible. And somewhere in our heads, the answer will never be found. And all our struggle has been to try and get the answer in our minds. Because in our intuition, in our heart, the answer has never been lost. So satsang is to come to that truth which has never been lost, only seems to have been because we are confused by our heads. So you said, what am I misinterpreting? If you have any interpretation, it is misinterpreting. There are no true interpretations in Satsang. So if you have an idea about what this all means, just forget about it. What it all means is clear to you. But if it is definable, it is not what it means. You see, in a way, an analogy is coming to me about intermittent fasting. What happens when we start intermittent? Some of us have done it. So what happens is that initially, like, if you start fasting and you're not eating breakfast, you see, at breakfast time, there's this sort of wobbliness that comes. You see? You're not used to that sort of condition because you're used to having food in your stomach. You see? In the same way, when we are open and empty, that initial wobbliness can come. Because what are we relying on? What are we relying on? You see? Then what happens is that when there is no food in the stomach, the body starts to rely on reserves which it seemed to have forgotten it had. You see? All the reserves of stored energy, which it seemed to have forgotten it had, it comes to that and then it's clear that it doesn't need to wobble because the reserves are there. In the same way, because we came so much to rely on our minds, you see, and our minds become empty, initially that wobbliness can come. So now, what do I do? What can I rely on? How will I run my life? You see? But as you allow yourself to remain empty for a bit, you will find that true knowledge, you see, has never been lost. It is always there. You see, so it's not even like reserves, it is just what you are. It's not like you have reserves of true knowledge, but it's a good metaphor in a way. You see? So don't fear that wobbliness about, if I'm not understanding what this is, then am I lost? This can be the idea. But actually, as you let go of your mental understanding of what this is, what you are, you come to your true reserves of intuitive self-knowledge, which you can never lose. You see? That's why after 1 or 2 days of intermittent fasting, you stop feeling that wobbliness. And as you get used to the naturalness of remaining open and empty, as you get used to relying on this intuitive self-knowledge, then you will not clamor so much for mental understanding and interpretations. Guruji calls this the withdrawal symptoms in the rehab. Just having withdrawal symptoms from the mind. But this moving away from your head and going into your heart, which again is not an emotional heart, it is the heart of truth, it is the heart of the essence of reality. In this process there can be some withdrawal symptoms from the head because we have relied on it for so long.